now we can talk to Ridwan Gustiana, a humanitarian worker and doctor who was one of the first on the ground in Indonesia in 2004. Thank you so much for coming on the programme. I mean, as we mentioned, you were first on the ground there. Can you paint a picture for us of what you found when you got to where you landed?
So during the tsunami, I was basically based in Bandung, and I flew one day after. And I arrived a couple of days, 2 days after that in Malabo, one of the hardest hit by the tsunami. I think the image I still remember mimically. The destruction is so bad. But again, as a doctor, I don't really focus on the destruction. I come to help. So when I was there, I basically established my emergency clinics and help people with a lot of wounds, and of course with a wound which is probably very difficult to treat. Some of them have to be amputated. I remember evacuating a lot of people to the hospital to be treated for amputation, but also treating a lot of people with very heavy wounded. But of course, the need is bigger than medical. We also see that many people were traumatized by the event. That was 20 years ago, and I still remember that. And today, I'm also in Banda Aceh. It's very I'm commemorating the 20 years of the tsunami by riding bicycles from Medan to Banda Aceh. I just arrived today from 4 days journey. Riding bicycle just to see how the different 20 years back along the coast were hit by tsunami. Yesterday was the hardest part, where I have to cycle around 240 kilometers from Malabo, the place where I worked for almost 3 years, and cycle to Banda Aceh along the coast. And I can see, of course, the difference found after 20 years. I met a lot of people and very fortunate to meet one father who was basically was beneficiary of my clinics during that time. It was so memorable for me.
I'm so glad you mentioned exactly how you're marking the anniversary. You must be quite exhausted from that, but it must have been the best way possible to see how much the region has been able to repair. I mean, the people that you met, the people that you've talked to, how prepared do you think these places are for other weather events like this?
That's interesting, because one of the objectives of my cycle ride is also fundraising for school education for disaster. I think the awareness is still there. Many people, I think especially who were experienced on disaster, we always remember that if there are about tsunami. But again, I think this awareness needs to be sustained through a more sustainable effort, including putting the disaster education to school. One of the fundraising we are trying to do to the local organization here in Aceh is to conduct school education about disaster. People commemorating every year, but this should be emphasized on how the lesson learned from the tsunami to increase the preparedness of the people. Now, of course, I think school is the best way to deliver those education. So we're trying to do that with the local society here.
Right. Yes, of course, education is one of the longest term impacts of these types of events. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. Ridwan Gustiana, a humanitarian worker who was first on the ground in Indonesia in 2004. Many thanks for your time on News.
Thank you so much for having me.